In Ecuador, the president of the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities, Leonidas Iza, is exonerated from the trial against him. In the United States, at least 6 people are reported dead and several wounded due to a shooting in the state of Illinois during the Independence Day parade. West African leaders lifted sanctions on Mali's military regime, accepting March 2024 for its return to civilian rule, and agreed to allow Burkina Faso 2 years for its transition back to democracy. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Ecuador, the president of the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities, Leonidas Iza, is exonerated from the trial against him. The trial hearing against him was not installed and was declared failed by Judge Paola Bedon due to anomalies in the evidentiary request. The Constitutional Court of Ecuador has 45 days to rule on the consultation with the objective to grant a period of 15 days to evacuate requests for evidence. The process against Leonidas Iza has been widely criticized after he was arrested during the first day of the national strike in a police action considered arbitrary by his defense.
This trial, comrades, is unjust. An unjust trial. Justice is not fair, comrades. How do you pretend to legalize a lie? Please, I was never arrested in a flagrant crime. That is why we have said, whatever it costs, including our lives, comrades, we are going to defend a truth, and we have to take that truth to the national and international levels, comrades.
Chile's Constitutional Convention delivered its final proposal for the country's new constitution, which will be consulted by the people on September 4th. The meeting was held at the National Congress building in the capital and was attended by the 154 convention members and special guests. The Chileans will have from Monday 2 months to study the document, which declares the nation as a social state of law after over 3 years under the shadow of the constitution promoted by Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship. During the presentation, the Vice President of the Convention, Gaspar Dominguez, pointed out that the new text intends to create a universal health system, strengthen public education, as well as increase the rights of indigenous peoples.
We need each other. We depend on each other. And that is why the new constitution could only welcome and protect all people with more united and fair relations. A solidarity health system, a quality education which allow us to freely develop our personality, housing, pensions, labor protection, which allow society working together to advance to better living conditions, and the exercise of equality and freedom. As stated in Article 1 of this proposal, Chile is a solidarity republic.
For her part, the President of the Constitutional Convention, Maria Elisa Quinteros, during the presentation of the final report for the new constitution, expressed that the document seeks to create a nation for the future.
Chile with gender equality that guarantees the rights of women, girls, young people, sexual diversity, and dissidents, in which a principle that we inaugurated in this convention, parity, is respected. This proposal also speaks of a Chile that recognizes its territories, in which the regions will be able to implement public policies that will take care of their diverse local needs. A Chile for the future, in a state that includes the best advances.
In Chile, the Carabinero Corps repressed a demonstration of high school students in the capital, Santiago de Chile. The demonstrators planned to surround the location where the Constitutional Convention delivered the draft of the new Magna Carta. The protesters denounced that Carabineros used water cannons to fire jets at short distance against the demonstrators. Student leaders ratified that the purpose of the rally was peaceful under the premise of demonstrating the importance and popular support behind the constitutional renewal process. The President of the Brazilian Senate, Rodrigo Pacheco, will determine this week whether to open the Parliamentary Commission of Inquiry on Corruption in the Ministry of Education. The objective of the legislative group will be to investigate the allegations of misappropriation of public funds in the association between former Education Minister Milton Ribeiro and pastors Gilmar Santos and Arilton Moura, sent to the former official at the request of President Jair Bolsonaro. Local media report that a week ago the Senate Speaker had resisted the establishment of the commission but was convinced by opponents who claimed that such a committee is necessary to avoid interference in the federal police investigations. Meanwhile, other supporters of the former military ruler are trying to convince Pacheco to postpone the opening of the commission until after the elections. Uruguayan justice begins an inquiry into the use of anti-COVID-19 vaccines produced by the U.S. pharmaceutical company Pfizer in the framework of a writ filed to suspend the application of the pharmaceutical formula in children authorized by the Ministry of Public Health. Judge Alejandro Recarey approved the beginning of the investigations. According to the decision, the executive power and the firm Pfizer must present information on the compounds of the vaccines and detail whether they contain graphene oxide or nanotechnological elements. The authorities were also asked to scrutinize the contracts between the Uruguayan government and the pharmaceutical company to check if they contain clauses of criminal impunity for the suppliers in case of adverse effects on the people. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In the United States, at least 6 people are reported dead and several wounded due to a shooting in the state of Illinois during the Independence Day parade. The state's security forces informed that they have already started investigations to determine the persons responsible. They also confirmed that at least 16 people were injured during the incident and are already being treated at local hospitals. Dozens of citizens participating in the parade recorded the incident in which gunshots were heard and people were observed running from the place. Highland Park is a residential area located about 40 kilometers from Chicago, in which about 30,000 people live according to the last census.
And I just never saw that much. I mean, you see it everywhere else.
This time, 24 people have been transported to Highland Park Hospital. 6 are confirmed deceased. The suspect is currently described as a male white, approximately 18 to 20 years old, with longer black hair, a small build, and wearing a white or blue t-shirt.
Russian President Vladimir Putin congratulated the military on the liberation of the self-proclaimed Lugansk People's Republic. During a meeting with the head of defense, Sergei Shoigu, the Russian president congratulated the Russian and Lugansk military for the liberation of the entire territory of the self-proclaimed republic. The president also promised to reward all the servicemen who distinguished themselves in this operation, thank them for their work and wish them further success. The Russian head of state also assured that the forces in Lugansk deserve a rest, while he called on the rest of the fronts to fulfill their pre-established objectives.
Military units, including the East Group and the West Group as well, must carry out their tasks according to previously approved plans. I hope that everything will go on in their direction the same way it happened in Lugansk so far.
Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said the offensive operation to liberate the territory of the self-proclaimed Lugansk People's Republic was successfully carried out.
The operation to liberate the territory of Lugansk People's Republic was successfully carried out. Within 2 weeks, groups in the Gorsky Cauldron in the district of Lysychansk and Severodonetsk were surrounded and liquidated.
The Ukrainian army announced the withdrawal from the city of Lysychansk, key to control the Lugansk region. Hours after Russian forces and Lugansk militias announced the liberation of the important city of Lysychansk, Ukrainian forces announced their withdrawal from this city and the region of Lugansk. The Ukrainian authorities said the decision to withdraw is aimed at preserving the lives of the Ukrainian fighters who had been under siege since last Saturday night. The leaders of the self-proclaimed Lugansk People's Republic praised the liberation of their territory after 8 years of struggle against Kiev's aggressions. In Russia, the president of the parliament, Vyacheslav Volodin, stated that Finland should not host NATO military bases. From the end of June, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is expected to establish a base in Finland, following the country's accession to the military bloc. Consequently, the Russian parliament warned that the deployment of NATO bases will expose a blow to the neighbors of those cities hosting military infrastructures. However, Kimmo Harva, mayor of Lappeenranta, a city in southern Finland, told Yle television that his airport would be available if Allied forces needed it in the middle of the Ukrainian conflict. China denounces NATO's new strategic concept of alleged respect for nation sovereignty and territorial integrity. Foreign Ministry spokesman Xiao Lijian said the new strategic concept of the military alliance is plagued by Cold War mentality, while rejecting NATO's statement calling Beijing a challenge to its interests. The spokesman pointed out that China is a defender of international order and maintains a policy of peace that contributes to global development. Xiao also stressed that the military bloc proclaims itself a defensive organization that advocates international order while ignoring the decisions of the UN Security Council leading wars against sovereign states.
据不完全统计，仅2001年后，北约发动和参与的战争就导致90万人丧生，其中包括
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with his counterparts from Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos on the occasion of cooperation on the Lan-Khan-Mekong River. In a statement, the Chinese Foreign Ministry reiterated that Beijing will continue to adopt friendly policies towards Myanmar and its citizens. Una Maung-Luina appreciated China's assistance to Myanmar's development. During this meeting at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Wang Yi highlighted the increase in bilateral trade and the smooth operation of the China-Laos Railroad line. The minister also expressed his support for the consensus agreed upon in April 2021 among the Asian leaders. More news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. West African leaders lifted sanctions on Mali's military regime, accepting March 2024 for its return to civilian rule, and agreed to allow Burkina Faso 2 years for its transition back to democracy. The heads of the Economic Community of West African States met in Ghana's capital, Accra, to assess efforts to secure guarantees for restoring civilian rule in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. Mali underwent coups in August 2020 and May 2021, followed by Guinea in September 2021 and Burkina Faso this January. Fearing contagion in a region known for military takeovers, Ecowas imposed tough trade and economic sanctions against Mali, but lesser punishment against Guinea and Burkina Faso. The president of the Ecowas Commission, Jean-Claude Cassibrot, commented on the agreement reached by the heads of state of the West African bloc on Burkina Faso.
The authority of Burkina Faso have made a new proposal, which is now to have the transition in Burkina last for 24 months, starting July 1st. So this is a progress that has been made. And as I said, with the freedom of President Kabore, the head of state now decided to took the following decision. First is to remove the economic and financial sanctions that were imposed to Burkina Faso on 25th March.
Traders and consumers and transporters react to the lifting of Ecowas sanctions imposed on Mali since January 9, 2022. West African leaders agreed to lift sanctions on the country's military regime.
It's a great joy for all of us, for the company, because our economy had gone down. I think that with the opening of the borders, this will be progress for everyone, for operators and for carriers. There were a lot of passengers. We just filled up 2 buses and everyone was happy to go home. It's a total joy for all of us. My family was meant to come, but with the sanctions it was very difficult. With the lifting of the sanctions, I will return to the country, and 2 months later I will return with my family.
The Central African Republic, one of the poorest and most troubled countries in the world, unveils plans to launch its own digital currency. President Faustin Archange Touadéra announced on an online event that his country will create the Sango coin, which he believes will be the solution that will change not only the Central African Republic but also other countries. The currency is named after one of the 2 official languages in the landlocked country, rated the world's second poorest nation under the UN's Human Development Index. Touadéra explained that the Sango, through a platform called Crypto Island, will become the catalyst for tokenizing the nation's vast natural resources. The president did not provide any timeline or other details. In Libya, tires were burned in the streets of Tripoli, the country's capital, as part of a protest against the deteriorating living conditions in the North African nation. Libyans, many of them impoverished after a decade of turmoil and sweltering in the summer heat, have been enduring food shortages and power outages of up to 18 hours a day, even as their country tops Africa's largest proven oil reserves. The country has been in chaos since a NATO-backed uprising plunged the country into a civil war that ended with the assassination of President Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. UN talks in Geneva to break deadlock between rival Libyan institutions failed to resolve key differences. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for unity to overcome the continuing political stalemate. The U.S. State Department admitted Monday that the bullet that killed Palestinian U.S. journalist Shirin Abu Akleh on May 11 was fired by the Israeli military. The conclusion does not differ from that already provided by the Palestinian side, although the State Department did say by way of justification that the reporter was probably killed by unintentional shooting by the Israeli Defense Forces. The Palestinian Authority Attorney General Akram Al-Kateb, however, warned that his investigation proved that an Israeli soldier killed Abu Akleh directly and deliberately. Abu Akleh, a well-known Al Jazeera correspondent, lost her life in the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied territory while covering an Israeli millions. The bullet that killed the journalist was reportedly fired from a distance of 170 to 200 meters by a sniper with a clear line of sight. To date, the United States says it has not been able to reach a definite ruling on its investigation. The Suez Canal announced on Monday a record profit of $7 billion for the 2021 for repeatedly raising transit fees for ships through the crucial passage for world trade. The chairman of the Suez Canal Authority, Osama Rabi, said Monday that between July 2021 and June 2022, some 1.32 billion tons of cargo transited through the canal, providing a $7 billion rent in transit fees, the highest in its history, for an increase of 20.7% compared to the previous financial year. Egypt, caught between inflation of over 15% and a recent devaluation of the pound by nearly 20%, had increased transit fees, particularly for oil and gas ships, by 6% in February and then by 5 to 10% in March. The Suez Canal handles about 10% of the world's maritime trade and is one of Cairo's main sources of foreign currency.
El canal soñado por los faraones desde hace 4.000 años ha dejado de ser el símbolo de la dominación de potencias europeas para convertirse en el mayor emblema de la liberación de Egipto. Desde el canal
TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon, versions will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.